Am I on? Okay, thank you, sir. Good morning. My name is Don Daniel. I'm the founder of Pill Method International, a better way to eliminate debt. And I'm autistic. So I know, being introduced to the tech world, that no one else in here is neurodiverse. But don't let them call you names, all right? So anyway, we're going to be talking about the 1936 deception, but you can get a hold of me here because we won't have time afterwards. ice10k.com, pillmethod.com, and that is our phone number. And I had to remember who I was talking to because most people I talk to don't know how to use a QR code. I'm just saying. So here you go. All right? So I'm an author of this book, and it's a 6-time bestseller on Amazon. In fact, out of 33 million titles, there's only one book that talks about how to read, understand, and how to beat an amortization schedule. It is not known anywhere. So how many of you here have had a class on how to read, understand an amortization schedule and how to beat it and save interest? Exactly. Exactly. We're expected to use the most ubiquitous financial tool on the planet without knowing the rules. How can you play the game if you don't know the rules? All right, so this is what we're going to talk about today. PIL stands for prepayment of principal, isolating the principal amount, leverage, and liquidity. Albert Einstein called compound interest the 8th wonder of the world. Amortized interest has to be the 9th. Here is the formula that amortizes your mortgage, or student loan, or credit cards, or car loan. I don't really understand the whole math thing because of having ASD, autism spectrum disorder. When I see an amortization schedule, I see it in pictures and patterns other people don't see. I wasn't strong in math in school. In fact, until I realized I had a gift for this, I kind of struggled. But I've actually turned it into a 20-year business. Okay, so if the banks have a way to charge us all of that interest, where is your algorithm to cut interest cost? Here is the date, 1936. This is where it all started. During the aftermath of the stock market crash in 1929, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, with his New Deal, said what we're going to do is help these people with these mortgages because mortgages did not look then like they do now. You had to have 50 to 80% down prior to 1936, and they were interest only for a term of 3 or 6 or 10 years. After the term, you had to either pay the balloon or refinance. When the stock market crashed, there was no more refinancing. People said, give me my money. We're not refinancing you anymore. And people could not pay the balloon, therefore they lost their mortgages. They lost their homes, they lost their churches, they lost their farms. So when the New Deal came in, it says, we're going to buy up all of these old mortgages, okay? We're going to buy them up and reissue them to the people with brand new 20-year mortgages. This was the first self-amortizing mortgage. Okay? I got a lot of this information from a white paper that was done at the University of Pennsylvania. It's not widely known about the history of all of this, but the history is important. Because when the government bought those mortgages and reissued them, they did not want to be in the mortgage business. So what they did was they created a secondary market which exists today. A mortgage is then sold to investors. And there's two things investors in mortgages are afraid of. What do you think they are? Non-payment, but non-payment is actually way down the list. You know what is high on the list? Paying it off early. Paying it off early. And so when you look at mortgage-backed securities, look it up, mortgage-backed securities, and then look up how to mitigate prepayment risk. There are thousands of articles on how to mitigate prepayment risk. This is why we don't know the power of prepayment. I'm going to teach you a little bit about it today, but guess what? Please, please, don't try this at home. You're going to learn just enough to be dangerous, okay? So, here we go. I need you to take a look at this $500,000 mortgage at 3% interest, which you can't get anymore, and everybody wants a 3% loan, okay? You can't get that anymore. And I'm here to tell you, you're going to probably have to call me to find this out for sure, okay? But the higher interest rates actually work better than the lower ones. If somebody offered me a 7% interest rate today and I can afford the payment, I would take it all day and never refinance out of it. I'm going to show you why today, okay? So now we have a 30-year mortgage of $500,000, and now the bank wants total interest $258,000. Does that sound like 3% to you? Well, it's because it's not. It's 51.777% all day. All 3% mortgages are 51% mortgages, all of them. Okay? So, not only that, but if it's 4%, now they want 71% of what you borrowed in the form of interest. 5%, they want 93%. They want almost as much money in interest as they do in the principal you borrowed at 5%. But we get so used to making a payment that's easy to make, we forget about what I call in my book interest consumption. How much interest are you consuming each month? We don't know. We don't think about it. But the average family, no matter how much money they make, consumes 35 to 39% of their income just on interest payments alone. Not the entire payment, just the interest portion. You add it up. I'm sorry? 35 to 39% of your income pays interest alone. Okay? Now, we don't think about it because we can afford to travel, we can afford to buy a car, we can afford to live in the house we want, we can afford to do these things, and we don't have any problems paying our bills. But we just don't pay attention to how much interest we are consuming, and we can pay 75% less. We can pay off our mortgages, student loans, credit cards, and car loans in an average of 7 to 9 years, not 30 years to never. You know, I'm from a small town in Michigan, Battle Creek, Michigan, and I've done some traveling, and I've seen some cars that cost over $200,000. But when I did my research, you know that car, if you buy it on time, it has to be paid off in 7 years. It has to be. How come a car can be paid off in 7 years, but a $200,000 house takes, there you go. How come? Listen, man, I'm telling you, there's a whole lot we don't understand about this game. And we want to understand this game. So how would you like to pay off your student loans and your mortgages like you pay off a car? All right. All right. Here's 7%, and this is what 7% is. Let me tell you something. This is what the banks ask for. You have not because you... They ask for it and we pay it because we don't know any different. Okay? But we're going to learn something today. Here's what people need to, now somebody's going to ask me, is this legal? Can we do it? Is the bank going to say it's okay? But in your mortgage papers, in your loan papers, it says it's your right to prepay. You don't have to ask permission if it's your right. Please don't ask me after it's all over, can we do this? Because you can, all right? But you need to understand you have the right to make prepayments of principal. And they call it a prepayment. Anytime you pay before the payment is due, you make it impossible for them to charge you interest. When I make a prepayment, I will tell the note holder in writing. It's easy to tell them in writing these days because a lot of the websites will take a prepayment, okay? So don't assume that your bank, your mortgage company, who owns the note on your car, don't assume that you know how they want the prepayment. Don't assume that at all. Find out, okay? And then follow the directions. Here's the most important part of this whole thing. The third paragraph. The note holder will use how much of my prepayments? All of my prepayments to reduce the amount of principal that I owe under this note. So all prepayments go to what? How much did it say goes to interest? Zero. So all of my prepayments go to principal. Okay. So if I make a partial prepayment, there will be no changes in the due date. So on a mortgage, you can't get ahead on a mortgage. If you prepay it, what you're doing is you're chopping that thing down from 360 payments down to around 84. I'm going to show you how, okay? The note, there won't be any changes in the monthly amount unless the taxes and insurance change. But the mortgage payment itself does not change. I'm going to teach you today how to read this amortization schedule. Are you ready? I'm going to need some help from you all. Okay, so this is a $200,000 mortgage at 6%. The payment is $1,199.10. In the very first payment, let's call it January, how much money goes to principal? How much goes to interest? Well, actually, what you're going to learn today is it's really not interest per se, it's a discount. They discount the payment because if you were one of those investors that buy the mortgage within 2 weeks after you sign the document, how many have seen that? Okay, an investor bought it, okay? When you make that payment, how much of the payment goes to the investor? All of it. All of it. But they get to discount it by like 80%, so only a small portion actually pays down the loan. Okay? So just think, that new pool that you have in the backyard, you don't get to fill it up with a fire hose. You have to do it with a 5-gallon bucket. But just think, by the time you fill up the bucket and get it to the pool, 80% of it has just leaked out. That's how you're paying your debt right now, and it doesn't have to be. So $199.10 goes to principal, and we're left with the principal balance here. Wherever you see a principal balance, now I need this to sink down deep. Wherever you see the principal balance, go to the next month to see what to do. You don't even need to know the math. Wherever the principal balance is, where you end up, just go to the next month and you'll see what to do. You got that? Okay, and if you're taking notes, control the principal payment and you control the loan. Control the principal payment and you control the loan. Interest payments I skip don't matter. I don't care how high they are. All right, you ready? So I just made my January payment, and so after January and February, now my principal payment is a little higher, but my interest payment is a little lower. Do you see that? But the payment still stays the same. Okay? So now, if we did this, and I pay the $200.10, I'm paid down to line 2 right here in February, aren't I? But what if I did this? I make my payment in January. I'm all done, correct? How much is the principal payment for February? Do I have to wait, based on what I read, based on what we read, do I have to wait till February to give them that $200.10? Oh, can I give it to them in January? And how much of it goes to principal? All of it. Oh, listen, come on now. Come on now. Look at this. So I'm paid down to $199,600.80. I'm paid down to line 2 in January, aren't I? So if I'm on line 2 in January, my next mortgage payment or student loan payment is on what line of this schedule for February? Exactly. So payment number 1 is now touching payment number 3. $200.10 just got rid of all of payment number 2. And what happened to the $999 on line 2? What happened to that interest that the bank wants? I'm sorry? I can say it out loud. It's gone. You never have to pay it. All of that interest that they wanted from you, just because you gave them the principal payment early, you just cut all of that interest down by $999.10. I see that smile on your face, young man. Okay, because for some of you who have got student loans, I got something for you too. Okay? So that is gone. You never have to pay it. What if we did this? I make my January payment, and then I look at my amortization schedule. I said, well, you know what? What if I gave them the $200.10, the $201.10, and the $202.10, all in the same month? How much interest have I just saved? Woo, about $3,000. And all I had to do was take about $600 out of my bank account that's making 1/10 of 1%. Yes, ma'am. No, we're just showing what happens when you prepay. Okay? You can prepay $1, you can prepay $10,000, you can prepay it all. Okay. So whatever you prepay. Now, it's important to note, paying all of that interest is not good. Costs you a lot of money. We're going to learn how not to pay it. Where AI comes in is that we will optimize how much interest you will not pay per dollar. If you can figure out how much interest you can save by saying, let's say I can save $6 in interest for every dollar I apply to principal. You certainly wouldn't want to save 3, would you? How would you know the difference? You wouldn't. This is where AI comes in. We've been told that it's so easy, all you have to do is pay more. No, what you really need to do to figure out how to handle these mortgages and student loans and car loans is learn how to pay less interest out of the income you already have, all right? And still live well while you're doing it. There's no eating beans and rice every day. I like beans and rice, but not every day. Okay? There's no driving a 30-year-old car. There's no sell pizzas at night. There's no cutting up your credit cards. It's just learning how this thing works. So, do you see how this works? What if we did this? I can kill those 3 interest payments by giving them $600 early. Does this make sense to you? Okay? So, what if we did this? Let's take a look at line 12. Cumulative principal, that's all the principal payments in column 1 added up. $2,456 and a penny. Okay? I know I need to pay that eventually. Okay? It's just added up. It's just add up all the principal payments. My question is, if I know I have to pay $2,456, do I have to pay it in 12 monthly installments? If I had it, could I give it to them on line 1? If I did, would they have to subtract it from what I owe? And would I get exactly $197,543.99 on line 12 of my amortization schedule? Okay? And what line would I be if I on for February if I did this in January? Come on, say it out loud. Line 13. This is money I'm going to give them anyway. What if I gave it to them early? See, we have never been taught what happens when we prepay. We know we can prepay. We know we're saving interest. We know we're saving time. But we've never been told how much, ever. You've never gotten a receipt from the bank that said, thank you very much for this payment. Here's how much interest you saved. Yeah, but if you went to Dillard's or Belk's and bought something on sale, what are they printing at the bottom of that receipt? And why do they do that? If Dillard's and Belk can do it, why doesn't your bank do it? They don't want you to know how much it is because here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, who's buying these mortgages? Who's buying these loans? If investors, if we knew that we could save this much interest, how much interest would I save? All of that, if I prepaid that. So the investor says, you've got to give me $15,000 in this first year. If you prepay the $2,400, then you're down to line 12 immediately. And I don't get to discount you by $11,933. I can only discount you by the interest on line 1, $1,000. So if I'm going to give the bank money, $2,456 and a penny, how much interest would you rather give? The $1,000 or the $11,933 we have been conditioned to pay? I told you somebody's going to ask me. Yes, you can. Yes, you can, and you should. You should find out how much money you're making, how much money you're spending each month, and then with the leftover money, and it doesn't have to be much, okay? Because if I can save $1,000 with a $200 payment, how much interest can I save with a $100 payment? $500. How much interest can I save with a $50 payment? $250. How much interest can I save with a $25 payment? Come on now. Do you see where we're going with this? There's power in a penny. If I keep going all the way down, I got a slide for that, but I don't have time for it. 1 penny would save you 7 cents. Yes, ma'am.
So when you prepay early and they give you a penalty, do you have to pay a penalty up front?
Okay, I love that question. I love prepayment penalties. I love them because everything we've learned about this business is backwards. Okay? So, I had a client in Canada. They have prepayment penalties on mortgages. They don't have that here. Okay? But I showed them how they're going to save $100,000 in interest through a prepayment. We can go on the bank's website to figure out how much interest they were, how much the penalty was going to be. To save $100,000, the penalty was $1,200. You see, here's the thing. They tell you how to figure the penalty. What don't they tell you how to figure? How much interest you're going to save. When you hear the word penalty, all you want to do is avoid. We don't do the math. We're not taught to do the math. If I gave your accountant, the one who's been doing your taxes forever, your CPA, $500 to put on their own mortgage, they wouldn't know how much interest they saved. You know why? Because we're not taught how to do that math, not even at the Wharton School of Business. And if you want to test me on that, Chat GPT, look it up. Perplexity, look it up. Okay? You just keep narrowing it down. What schools are teaching what Don taught today? All in one course? Nowhere. Nowhere. Okay? Are you ready? I had a student. I was speaking at a dorm. All right? And the title of my talk was, "Your parents are spending your inheritance on interest." I had them for a whole 45 minutes. They were fixated. Okay? So I had a student come to me and says, listen, I'm graduating and I have a student loan of $9,500, not $95,000, $9,500. They gave me at 6%, they gave me a $50 a month payment, and he didn't know it was going to take him 601 months to pay that off. Okay? Total interest paid would have been $20,550. Okay? I'm going to teach you how to read this. Actually, you're going to teach me how to read this now, because we're going to break that down. Total paid back would have been $30,050. Okay? The total interest paid as a percentage of principal would have been 216%, not 6%. Okay? So here's how payment break. His $50 payment, how did it break down? $47.50 went to interest. How much went to principal? Okay, folks, I'm going to ask you, how do I get rid of $47.49 worth of interest? How do I do that? You mean if I just prepay the $2.51, I get rid of line 2? Okay, listen, I forgot the disclaimer. You cannot say bad words during this. Okay? All right, so $2.51 will knock out line 2, put us on line 2, and the next payment is line 3, $47.49. So if we know that, could we do this instead? 12 months worth of principal payments is $30.84. Can you dig around in the couch cushions? All right, can you come up with an extra $30.84? Prepay it and knock off a year off that student loan? Okay? Are you hearing me? Okay? And how much interest would I save? I got 5 minutes. Okay, so now, in the last 5 minutes, I want to show you something. In the 1970s, the interest rates rose to 18%. And some of you have parents and grandparents that actually paid off those mortgages at 12 and 18%. Would you like to see how they did it? And then I'll be done. Okay? I need to get out of this. And I need to get to a browser. Whose computer is this? It's not mine. All right. And Google Chrome. Come on, Google Chrome. Talk to me. All right. This is brettwhistle.net. BRETWHI. Oops. Come on, where's my backspace? WHI. There he is, Mr. Brett Whistle. Okay. Amortization calculator. There it is. The median home price was $70,000 at 18%. And I need you all, you didn't know you were going to have a test today, did you? Okay, I need you all to teach me how your parents and grandparents paid this mortgage off. Here's the payment, $1,054, okay? And here's how it breaks down. Boom. I'm sorry? Can we zoom in? All right. Whose computer is this? Teach me how to zoom in on this. Oh, there you go. All right, let's get the whole, there we go. All right. So, The principal payments start out at $4.69. The higher the interest rate, the lower the principal payment. Remember what I told you? Give me a high interest rate, okay? Because I know what to do with it. If I can afford the payment, control the principal payment and you control the interest payments I skip, don't matter. 1 minute. So, folks, here's what we're looking at. How much money do we need to eliminate 12 months worth of interest on this loan? $64.67. And how much interest do I eliminate from this loan? That's it. Okay? I want to thank you so very much for your time.